Hey everyone, welcome back to Devrite Technologies, and we are starting a new service that is bot as a service. In this service, we'll be building certain type of chatbots that we'll be offering as a service to our customers. These chatbots will be building live on our YouTube channel. These services will be building during our video tutorials, and you can also get source code by purchasing from our DeviRite shop website, and also we'll be offering this bot as a service to our end customers. Let's get started. In this video, we'll be covering notification bot. In this bot, we'll be making it completely generic so that it will be applicable for multiple customers of ours. So what happens in this bot? Anyone can trigger a notification on any event from their own application or services or processes. And once a notification is being triggered, you get a message, or your end users get a message on their preferred channel. In this case, it will be Microsoft Teams channel. We'll be building this bot for the Microsoft Teams channel. And as of now, in this video, we'll be only targeting for the personal chat messages. That means the message will only be sent to the individual users, not to a channel, not to a group chat. So we are only targeting for the individual users in this video. I have already covered this tutorial long time back, and I would like to do it again with more details as well as with production ready implementation, and of course on the .NET 8 version. Alright, so I have created a bot. It is a EchoBot template, and I converted this .NET 6 bot to .NET 8. Let me show you how I did that. Right click on the project name, properties, and here it was .NET 6 earlier. Now I have made it to .NET 8. One more thing, what I did is upgrading the NuGet packages from the dependencies. So since I upgraded to .NET 8, so my dependencies, libraries, packages also needs to be matched to the .NET 8 version. Alright, so let's get started. Let me increase the size of this to 125%, and I'm going to remove the startup.cs file. Before removing that, I would like to convert my program.cs to a startup.cs file. Basically, my starting point will be start program.cs, and all the dependency injections will be part of this program.cs file. Alright, I converted my project to support program.cs as a starting point for my application, as well as include the dependency injection into it. So whatever dependency injections that we have it here under startup.cs, I have moved them to program.cs. You can see the code. You can leave this for now. I'll explain this in a bit. So here is the code, and as well as all the middlewares. And now let me explain this part a bit. During the development work, I'll get all my secrets from the key vault. And how I'll be authenticating? Using the Azure CLI. So I should get myself a role in Azure Key Vault to retrieve the secrets from the Key Vault. So that is for the development requirement. So here under dev environment, and as well as I'll be connecting this application or bot with the app configuration. That's a separate resource in Azure, and that will get mapped with the key vault. And here I'll be authenticating myself with the Azure CLI credential, and whatever app configuration that I have, I'll be mapping that from the key vault, and I can access that from my application. During the production environment, we'll be using managed identity to authenticate with the key vault, and we'll be giving managed identity the permission to access the secrets from the key vault. But during the development, it will be me as a developer who will be getting permission to access secrets from the key vault. Okay. So this is all the changes that we have made, and now I can delete startup.cs file. Just to make sure whether this is working fine, I'll be running this on local and testing it on the bot framework emulator. So I must initialize this property for now. Let me go to, and one more thing, we'll not be keeping our secrets in app settings.json. We'll be keeping it in secrets.json. That is it. Right click on your project and manage user secrets. What happens once you deploy the application, this particular file will not be deployed along with it. So for app settings, whatever you keep it here, it gets deployed to your environment, that is your app service in production. If you keep it something here, as well as it is being pushed to the GitHub repository, and that's not a recommended practice. So instead, I'll be using secrets.json. So version as of now, let's initialize with ver 1.0 dev. Okay. And I also need app configuration connection string for my local development. Let's go to Azure portal and let's initialize some of the resources that we need for this project. The first thing that I need is app configuration, rg notification bot, bot as a service. Oops, let me rewrite it. I'll keep the location as India. App config, bot as a service, notification bot. Let me also create key vault. Let me go to my resource group and open up app configuration. Go to operations, settings, access settings. Then, since it will be mostly read only keys, so I'll select the read only, get the connection string, and add a new property here. All right. So let me start it again. App config missing. Okay. Since it will be part of the connection string object, let me put that. Okay, let me first clear this up, clean solution, and restart again. There it is. All right. So let me get the URL, go to bot framework emulator and test this out. Since this is echo bot template, whatever I say, it will just echo me back, echo hi. So this seems to be working. So our conversion from startup.cs to program.cs is working fine. All right. So we have not been using this as of now, but we will be using it soon. Okay. Now, since we are developing this bot for Microsoft Teams channel, we have to add these four properties: app type, ID, password, and if it is a single tenant bot, then tenant ID as well. Let me think through it whether I should create a single tenant bot or multi-tenant bot. Since I'll be using this as a bot as a service, so I need to create this as a multi-tenant bot so that other organization can install my bot and start using it. For single tenant to work for other organizations, I might have to invite them to a tenant and then ask them to use it. So I would prefer it to be a multi-tenant bot. All right, so let's go back to our resource group and create the Azure bot resource. This I'll keep it as dev bot for now. I'll have multiple bots created for this. For Microsoft Teams channel, it comes under standard channels, so we can create a free resource. And this will be a multi-tenant review and create. Let me go back to the resource group and create one more resource for the production environment. Or let's keep it down for now till we deploy it. Okay. So bot profile, this is fine. Configuration. First thing first, go to channels and enable Microsoft Teams. Also, let me turn on the ngrok. Let me give you the command for the ngrok. That will be ngrok http host header equals to localhost 3978. This is the command. All right, let's go back to Azure bot, get the bot ID, go to manage password, create a new client secret, app password. For multi-tenant bots, you can leave the tenant ID blank and this will be multi-tenant. For the spelling, you can move back to the configuration page and get the bot type. Okay, so far so good. Let's quickly test this bot on the Microsoft Teams. For that, I have to create a manifest because I prefer creating a manifest rather than directly opening the URL from the portal. Let me get the files quickly. Okay, this is my manifest and for the ID, I have kept as a bot ID. These are my developer details, bot name, description. Again, bot ID is the same bot ID. Scopes, as I told you earlier, I'll be currently focusing on the personal scope as of now. For is notification only, I'll be making that as true. Okay. And support files, let's make it that as false. Since we'll be only targeting as the notification only bot for the personal scope, that is for the individual chats. So that is the reason we kept is notification only true. And now we are good to zip this up. And upload this to Teams. Before uploading, make sure your bot is running. Now you can upload this. Add. So I have the message, hello and welcome. That's perfect. So this is working on the Microsoft Teams channel. And here you can see you cannot send messages to this bot because we have made sure that it is a notification only bot and user cannot send messages. Well, yes, user can respond to the messages on the adaptive cards. We'll be supporting this bot for the text message, for the text message, for the hero card, for the adaptive card, and for the thumbnail card. So we will be supporting all these four types of different messages. Perfect. Now, what happens when we first install the bot? Before that, let me move these here. As of now, I'm not putting them into Key Vault. I'll be doing that behind the scene. I kept it in secrets.json. Okay, now let's go to bots. Change this to notification bot and change this activity handler to Teams activity handler. Okay, so I have on message activity and I have on members added async. Now we'll be implementing few things here. So what happens, what we need to so what we need to do when user installs the bot, when user uninstalls a bot, we need to capture those events. So when user installs a bot, we need to capture their conversation ID, service URL. So these two are the main properties that we need to grasp. But along with that, I will be also grasping name of the user, email ID, and its user ID. And of course, the tenant ID, since it is a multi-tenant bot. And we'll be storing all these details into table storage, Azure table storage. So before storing that into Azure table storage, I would like to create a storage account. I have the storage account ready. Let me move that to our project and add one more method, or I can say override method. So whenever a user installs a bot for the first time, these two activity type actions are generated. Or for installing the bot, it will be add. For uninstalling the bot, it will be remove. So what I have to do for when user installs a bot, add their details into storage account, especially table storage, and send them a welcome message. When user uninstalls a bot, remove their details from the table storage. Alright, so let's continue. Let me create one more class file, bot helper, that will call my table storage helper. Okay, and how it will call? Let's add table storage helper. And also let me add logger. Perfect. Also, I'll have to add them to dependency injection. Okay, all good for now. Also, I'll have to add them to notification bot, that is bot helper over here. Perfect. Now, instead of storage helper, I'll call bot helper dot store user details async. And for sending welcome message, let's call the same thing again. Bot helper dot send welcome message. Perfect. Here as well, bot helper remove user details. Now I can create these methods over there. There we are. We have created the method definitions. Now we'll be implementing them. So the first one that we will have to implement is store user details. Okay. Before that, let's write some generic methods for table storage helper. I will need to add Azure table, Azure data tables NuGet package. So I have created some generic methods that will be used for me to uh, get entities, insert rows, delete entities, as well as update them. So these are all my generic methods. Now let's go back to bot helper and do some stuff here. So first thing first, store user details. I'm creating certain model classes for storing data. That will be my user entity, and I'm going to create a common entity. Let me change this name to base entity. That will make more sense. And I have few common properties that will be used for my other entities, that is partition key, row key, timestamp, and etag. For partition key, we'll be making use of tenant ID. For row key, we'll be making use of user object ID. That is the AD object ID. So bot user entity will inherit from base entity. And now I'll be adding other properties here. I think these are the ones that I should be adding. Name, email, user ID, conversation ID, service URL, AD object ID, and tenant ID. Since these two we are already adding, but I'll be adding it again just for the description purpose, just for the documentation purpose. And these are all the properties for bot user, and here I'll be adding them as partition key that will be tenant ID. And row key as the AD object ID. Okay, so these are the properties that I'll be storing them, and let's get rid of this. Await storage helper dot upsert entity. I need a table name that will be bot user, and I need teams user details as the object. All right. And for other details, it's just an error message. So what I have done, I have first confirmed that whether it is a Microsoft Teams channel or not. Next, I have confirmed that it is on a personal scope. And after that, I'm storing the details, and I'm making sure that I am ignoring the external users and I'm only preferring the internal users. And I think it's time to test this out. But before testing this out, I will have to initialize this table service client. And I'm going to do that in dependency injection. So this is how I'm going to authenticate table service client by using Azure clients, and I'll have to get the connection string, and let me store that first. Go to secrets. And storage account, and let me get that. Remember, I won't be using connection strings for the authentication. I'll be using managed identities. For the time being, I'm just implementing quickly so that I make the model working as soon as possible. Okay, so I have the table service client ready, authenticated, and yeah, that's all. Let's test this out. Before that, let me first clean solution just to clear any cache. Okay, so I have some issue. Okay, got it. Um, this has to be builder dot configuration dot get connection string, and this has to be a normal bracket. Okay, let me rerun it. This is fine. Also, let me go to tables. Okay, I have the bot running. Uninstall. The reason I got this error because I have this method that is saying not implemented because under notification bot, since I uninstalled it, it invoked this particular event. It went inside remove user details and it threw the not implemented exception. Let me show you that. I think it should be part of here. Hmm, there it is. See, the method or operation is not implemented. All right, that is fine. Instead of okay, let's keep it as is. Before that, oh no, it's fine. Let me install the bot again. Go to apps, manage, upload, custom, select the manifest and add. Okay, the bot encountered an error and bug. Let's see what is the error this time. Okay, send welcome message. Okay, this also we haven't implemented that yet. But for the time being, let me send a simple text message. Welcome to the notification bot. This seems to be fine. And I'm supposing that I have the user details here. Let me open the storage browser, tables, bot user, and there it is. This is the tenant ID, user object ID, timestamp, again user object ID, conversation ID, email, name, service URL, and again the tenant ID, and finally the user ID. Okay, so this seems to be working perfectly fine. Now let me implement the remove user details as well quickly. So this is very quick. I have got the AD object ID and tenant ID. These are my primary keys, I can say, for my table. And I'm just calling delete entity by passing in the table name, partition key, and the row key. Okay, let's run this. And this time I'll uninstall the bot and refresh this one, and no items found. Let's install it again. Hello and welcome. Welcome to the notification bot. This particular message is coming from on members added method, and this one after we have stored the user details. Let's go back to table, and there we have the details. So every time user installs the bot, it will have a unique conversation ID and a unique user ID. So this will be changing. Okay. So far so good. Now so far we have implemented the first part of it, that is storing the user details. Now we'll be implementing retrieving those user details and sending a notification to the end user. So for that we will be creating a new controller, that is notification controller. Or I can say Notify controller for simplicity, and even bot framework samples uses this name, Notify controller. All right, so let's add something. Okay. So I'm initializing few things here. The first thing is adding these three properties to save app ID, app password, and notification API key. The notification API key is just a way of securing this endpoint. Well, I'll be implementing way little more advanced authentication, but for the time being, I am just keeping notification API key. And we need adapter, we need bot helper. Bot helper will keep all the logic of sending notifications in here, and we need adapter for sending it. And that is all. Now let's continue. So we have created an endpoint, a post endpoint. And the first thing that we are checking, if the key is null or empty, we are just returning an unauthorized message. Second, we are checking if the API key is matching the one that is stored in our configuration file. If it does not, then we are returning unauthorized. If it matches, then we'll be sending a notification to the user. Okay, for time being, we are not sending, we are just returning back this response. And here are a few codes that we have written. The poly is being used for the retry logic. We'll have 3 retry commands. And this method we have created to send an hero card. And this one is used to send the proactive message, basically an activity to the end user. This one is used to create an adaptive card. Currently it is being hard coded as of now. It just send a message block, basically a text block to the end user. We'll be modifying this approach. This one creates a bot activity. Bot activity consisting of an attachment, and in this case it is adaptive card is used as attachment that is being sent. So let's continue. To send a proactive message, we need the user details, which is stored on our Azure table storage. Let's go to that place. And in the meantime, let me set up my development environment. I'm here on the storage browser. At this point of time, it is blank. So I think I remember uninstalling the bot. So in order for this to work, I need to install the bot and then send a message. So let's do that. Let me get the manifest. Before uploading the manifest, I should make sure my project is running. Now I can upload the manifest. Also, let me quickly check here if everything is fine. Perfect. Hello and welcome. Welcome to the notification bot. To cross-check if the installation is successful, let me go to my table storage, and there I have the values over here. Perfect. So in order for this to send a notification to the end user, I would want to get the user details first. Get the team's user details. Only one thing I need from the API request body is the email ID of the user. So this is the header that I have received. I also want to receive the email ID of the user. For me to get back the email IDs, let me add this from here, from body. And this I would say, let me make this as post async. And from body notification payload. So this is the request body that I should receive payload. Let's create this class. And what all things I'm expecting? I'm expecting an email ID. I'm expecting message type. I'll be creating few of the types. For the time being, I'm expecting only these three values: email, message type, and message itself. And these are all three required values. So let me make that as required. All right. Okay. Now getting the user details. So do I have something bot helper over here? Yes, I do have. Var user get. Okay. I don't want to get all the users. I just want to get a single user. So this particular is wrong. Bot helper get user async, and I'm passing the email address generate method. And as a response back, I'm expecting bot user entity. Perfect. And here the table name is bot user. Partition key is and row key. Okay, that's the tricky part here. I would like to return back the user with their email IDs, but my partition key is the tenant ID and row key is my AD object ID. So for that reason, I need to think something else. So this method won't work. Let me double check here. See here, partition key is my tenant ID, row key is my AD object ID. So I also need a tenant ID in the notification payload. I do not expect the end user or somebody who is sending the notification to pass AD object ID will find a way to return back the user with the help of tenant ID as well as their email address. Okay. So tenant ID is here. Let me pass that as well as a payload. Perfect. Let's see what is the current implementation here. So it requires get entity requires a partition key, row key. So we'll make use of filters in order to return back some value. So let's add one method here. Get entity by filter. Okay, so it needs table name, partition key, and partition key is equals table client. Okay, perfect. So let me pass on one more parameter, that is email address. Partition key is a required value, even table name is a required value, and here email. Let me double check what's the property name. Email equals to email dot to lower, and this should always be a single value. It will not be a list item. Is null or empty, and even string dot is null or empty, that is email. Even this should not be null or empty. Create query filter, and okay, I guess let me add one more here, and partition key equals partition. Perfect. And this should not be a list. This should be first or default. This should not be a list. This should be T. And if that is there, then I should return null. And let me add data here. Perfect. Now let's see if this is going to work or not. Get table client. All right, let's try this out. Get user. Oh yeah, we have created that in table storage helper. Now we need to call this from bot helper. And to do that, let's call it from here. Storage helper dot. Yeah, there are two overloads. Bot user entity, bot user, tenant ID, and email. I doubt it is going to get. Okay, this should be get entity by email. Let's do this way. Get entity by email. Perfect. So I have the bot user. If it is null, then return null. Else, return bot user. Perfect. Now let's call this one from here. We are already calling it. Now we need to make sure that we are actually getting this notification payload to up till here. And in with respect to API key, okay, I moved from here. Okay, so I have kept all the things in key vault except for the API key that I haven't kept over there. For that purpose, let me keep this API key here just for testing purpose. Proactive notification API key, and I'm going to create a GUID for that. Create GUID. Copy, paste. So this is my notification key. Let's open Postman. I'm just adding that request over here. So since it is running on ngrok /API /notify, notify is my controller name, and what else I need to pass? This is my API key, and that will be on the headers API dash key. Perfect. And in the body, I need email, I need tenant ID, I need message type. For the time being, I'll just give some random value. And finally, message. Hi. Okay. Tenant ID, let me get it from here. That is my partition key. Perfect. Save, send. Bad gateway, Perfect. Something is getting bad gateway. Let me check if my controller is correct. Slash API slash. Okay. Let's see if my requests are getting coming. I think I did not run this project, I believe. Uh, that's fine. Let me rerun this. Send. Perfect. So I'm getting the request here. So I'm getting the API key from the headers. And also I'm comparing both the keys. That is one from my app settings.json and one I'm receiving from the email request body. Okay. And next I should get the user. And let's see if I'm getting the user details or not. So there it is. AD object ID, conversation ID, email, name, partition keys, service URL. That is what we need. Perfect. And I'm sending back the request. Basically, I'm sending back the response that proactive message has been sent. So this was working fine. So this seems to be working fine. Now let's create an activity and send a message. All right, so let's send a small text message for testing purpose. So I'll create a bot activity, and that bot activity requires a message, and that is a string message. So let me pass on payload.message, and finally I'll send the proactive message. So user.service URL, user.conversation ID, and the activity. Let me double check this. So it is creating a adaptive card with a single text block, and I'm sending the proactive message. Okay, so this is a last testing that we'll be doing. After that, behind the scene, I'll create this foolproof, basically support the whole lot of basically support the whole adaptive card itself, that I'll be working behind the scene, but this is the last testing that we'll be doing now for the test message, for the text message. So I'm running this. Let's say message type I have not implemented as of now, but since I'll be working behind the scene, I'll create this foolproof. Hello world JD. So let's send. Proactive messages has been sent. Let's double check. There we are. Hello world JD. So this is working fine. 1322. Perfect, perfect. So this seems to be working fine. Let me send another message. We sent a message just now. Let me quickly open this up so that we can see live. There it is. We sent a message just now. Perfect. So that was all from our side. I'll make this foolproof and release it soon for our end customers. Thanks everyone.